All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Redemption Radio. This is the last Redemption Radio of the season. I am Human Bones, and I am joined by Hate Daddy and Nexus. How's everybody doing?
Good, thanks for having me. Hate's muted. Good start.
Hate is muted. Yes, good start.
I'm unmuted. I swear I've done this before.
Too many times, probably.
I swear I'm not like that awkward, like old person being on Zoom for the first time. That's just like, what do I do here? And it's like always pointed up, so it's always like at this angle where it's like, hold on, I'll just do it. It's like this,
like a
where
cat
it's like-
filter, too.
where you're like, well, what am I doing? And and then they fall over and die.
I promise I'm here live in person. I'm not a cat.
Oh yeah, that lawyer, right?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Oh.
Well, we can wait.
Sorry, guys, it's a catastrophe.
These are all things that normally should happen before you press go live, but it's okay.
Never.
He's giving us a setup.
Also, I promise I did not actually dress up for this episode. I just Stal texted me and said, "Oh, radio," and I went, "Fuck! I forgot that I said I would do radio." And then guess
exactly
who didn't
that
show
way.
up? Guess who didn't show up? Stal. So, that's that. So we have reached the end of the very first Redemption season, and congratulations to FU for taking it all. It was a 4-round victory for them. They lost round 2, which was on their own home field, but they were able to tie. Explain.
They didn't tie. They won
didn't
round
tie.
3 and round
Okay.
4.
So it's pretty decisive then. I mean, they lost one round on their home field, which, for most teams, I feel like that can be kind of a kick, to your psyche, maybe your ego a little bit. Like, damn, we lost on our home field. But
I mean, I wouldn't say it was like this. I mean, 3-1 is a decisive series score for sure, but rounds 3, 4, or 2, 3, and 4 were close. Now, round 1 was just a mud stomp. FU pretty much had their way with them, and it was surprising that NLG actually came out and beat FU on their home field. Now that was a close game. That was a very entertaining game. Round 3 was a little more like, it wasn't one-sided, but it was just kind of, it was like FU had control of the game. NLG made it interesting, and then round 4 was a classic 5-4 shootout.
Yeah, I think round 4 there was the highlight for sure. It could have gone either way.
Yeah,
it was like literally last second. It just went in favor of FU. NGL even, not gonna lie, only had 6 caps throughout all 4 rounds, and I know FU had 16 in total. So it's like, whilst the rounds they did feel close in some situations, when NLG did win round 2, it was only by 1 flag, and it was there wasn't any blowouts for NGL. But
I think you might see this kind of stuff a lot. Like, you have one team that is just completely dominant all season, right? And you're like, okay, these guys are probably going to make it to the finals. There's a chance they might lose, but then you've got another team that like has got a player like Ross King on it. I mean, let's just call it like it is. Like, every Ross King team, you're always like, okay, this one's situated a little bit differently, got some different players, but there's still that X factor there. And I feel like he took his team and they overperformed, based on how he was playing. And like, not to discredit like everyone else on that team, but he just elevates teams to a different level. So I feel like there was a chance that they could have taken it away from FU, but at the same time, like, FU was so dominant all season, I'm not particularly surprised by the fact that they won, but you got to give credit, I think, to NLG too for just making it all the way through to the finals, and even stealing a round off of them, and then making that final round so like back and forth. Like, if they won that round, then what happens? Like, you don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the point that I was going to make. Like Nexus said, I mean, you see NGL win round 4, and then all of a sudden, is it NGL? We've been saying NLG. Is it actually NGL?
It's NGL, which sounds like the whole joke all season has just been not gonna lie, because it just looks like not gonna lie.
Okay, I can't believe we've been saying NLG this whole time.
It sounds better. They picked a shit name. That's on them.
Yeah. Well, I'll be correct.
That's why they lost. It was their name.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it really, I mean, really, you go on the set, you can't, ifs and buts and what's the saying? Ifs and buts and something coconuts. I don't know, the old person saying, but essentially, it's like, yeah, if you're NGL, you don't get to say, well, what if you didn't do it. But if they did win round 4, then all of a sudden round 5 is winner takes all, and that's how close we were. Is it no luck's given? Because now that would be NLG.
I thought it was. I thought it was NLG. I really thought it was no luck's
me
given.
too.
Yeah, it's deceiving.
So
But
I think you're deceiving us.
no, I swear, I promise.
Yeah. Well, everyone's deleted all the channels, so we can't.
Yeah, I was
we,
gonna
we can't
say-
make sure. No, I actually watched the finals game earlier today just to make sure I remember
Well,
everything correctly.
either way, it doesn't matter. They lost. So I'm not gonna say that they overachieved. I think Amar's really good. Legion is really good. And obviously Ross King is one of the best to ever do it. I think it's more they just kind of ran into a really dominant team, and they quite frankly were one round away from forcing sudden death. So I call it a close series. But that being said, I still look back to that week 2 matchup where FU beat MRB. I think that was probably the real finals, because after that they just collapsed. I mean, Ninja Dog went off the deep end and disappeared. Langrenus couldn't stop saying the N-word, and now here we are looking back, like, man, like, I don't think anybody was really predicting like an FU, NGL, NLG, whatever the hell their name is, finals. Because I even looked at a team like ORB, like Nexus' team, and I said, man, if that team gets going, like nobody wants to play against them, and they just never got it together. But yeah, I mean, I think where I'm more surprised is how dominant FU was. If I looked at any team, I would have thought that would have been MRB. I mean, because you look who's on that roster, right? Like Ninja Dog, Langrenus, and you're just like, wow. And Dranzer. And now Dranzer kind of, I don't know if he wasn't in his normal shape, but the Dranzer of a couple years ago, if that would have gotten that Dranzer, that would have been an even scarier team. But, to cut this long rambling point off, I think a lot of teams, I think ultimately you had to have 2 teams that didn't make it. And it was surprising the 2 teams that didn't, but you had a great finals. Even though it was a 3-1, it was still a really entertaining series to watch. I think the league did really well. I think they made a good decision to stick to 6 teams instead of going to 8, because they could have gone to 8 teams and they probably would have had 2, maybe 3 really bad teams. So they made it really entertaining. And then going forward, if they want to continue to have another season, whether they want to do it semi-annually or annually, however they want to do it, it's up to them. Maybe they can continue to build up some of the newer players that are coming to the community, get older players to come back here and there, and eventually push for that 8 to 10 team series. But they didn't need to. They didn't need to this season. And I think it was a successful season, good finals. I'm disappointed that I wasn't able to be there to call the game with Zanero, but Capelli stepped in and did really well. So I don't have too many complaints about it. Just, I guess, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%. To build off what you said there, I think, as you're saying, Ninja Dog's team VBM versus FU, personally thinking, like, I feel if Ninja Dog put in 100%, for whatever reason, he couldn't be committed, personal reasons, I don't know, not going to speculate. But I feel like if Ninja Dog was on 100%, he was playing, he was practicing, I feel like the real finals was VBM versus FU. I think that would have been really,
I think that would have been up.
Yeah,
you knew who I meant.
I got it. I think that's the real finals. I think NGL, they put up a really good fight. On paper, it kind of ended up exactly how you'd expect it. I think the home field picks were actually interesting. FU picked map 68, and NGL with map 14. Map 14 for NGL. Personally, I think it only worked for Theron, for Ross King. Like, Amar, great defender, but I feel like he has the same issue that I have on that map, where it's just a pain in the ass to defend on, and it doesn't really suit his style. Like, he's a better player than I am, and he's great there, and he did a really good job defending. But it's really tough, and only a few players can actually defend well there. And then Legion, I got the opportunity to practice against Legion on map 14, defending against them, and once again, it just does not suit his style at all. Like, when you have a player like Poto on FU, you see him doing ridiculous stunts constantly. And then you get Legion, and it feels like he's just going main and rockets every single time, just trying to like brute force his way in, which on that map just doesn't really work. And then especially when you're playing against a team like FU, which is without a doubt the most well-rounded team in the league. You know, you got the Stallion on the bench, like, it's nuts. Insane. So like, you pick pretty much any map against FU, you're kind of a little bit screwed. But with map 14, I don't think it really showed the strengths of NLG. You've got two very fraggy players, and then you got Theron, who's just a powerhouse at adapting. And so obviously that suits Theron really well, map 14. But when you have the two fraggy players, Legion and Noir, it kind of leaves them hanging, and I think that's what we saw. Both rounds, I believe, on map 14 were lost on their own home field. And when we look at map 68, which I also think is a weird pick for FU, because, you know, it's a good map. They're great at playing it, but everyone's played it. Everyone knows how to play that map. So when you go up against NLG playing map 68, they've already played it. They already know what's up. So they actually took round 2. Not convincingly. It was only one flag. Could have gone either way. But I think if I was in FU's position, they've got such a well-rounded team. They can do well on basically any map and be confident with winning. I don't see why they didn't pick something different. So, like, you've got so many maps to choose from. Why didn't you pick something where no one's played, no one's practiced? Instead, they went for map 68, which worked for them. But
Do you think it would have made a difference if they chose a different map?
I think they could. I think they could have clean swept it. I think, like, if they put, I'm not going to throw any maps out there, but if they picked like a map which all the other teams hadn't practiced, like, I mean, game over anyway. They won. It doesn't matter what I say, but like, I think it would have just been a clean sweep, because with map 68, they'd already had another week 1, to practice it. So they're already super practiced on that. They already know what's going to happen. They've already seen, more importantly, they've already seen that team play there. So it's a strange choice, but yeah.
So, and Disparrow actually said this, and Bones is highlighting it. What you're getting into, Nexus, I think, is really like the theory of when you're picking home fields and you're the number 1 or number 2 seed. Having been in that position in the past, and especially in a similar situation like FU was when we won in 2012, we didn't lose a round at all. We were the dominant team all season. And our thought was, well, we were a powerhouse team, so we weren't very versatile like this FU team was. So for us, it was like, what frag heavy map suits us best, right? And there was a new one that season that they had introduced. It was not Kansas, I think it was called. And it had been used seldomly in the past, but it wasn't added in any map pack. And that was probably, we played that in the regular season, and it was the most impressive that we looked. But our fear was, well, we might have looked really good on that map, but I feel like we felt like that's not a safe pick. And when you're dominant the entire season, there's no reason to take chances. Like, you just pick the map that you know is going to suit you well, that you're going to do well in, that doesn't leave itself open to potential luck. Like, I guess case in point, like, what if they would have played like map 8? What if they'd have picked map 8 and then ran into Dastin and Tiger? Like, shit, now you put yourself in a position where a team that you should steamroll on any other map, like, now they have a real chance to beat you. Like, you don't, if you're as versatile as they are, I think picking a safe map like that takes away a lot of power from teams that might have that advantage in a specialty map like TWT. I think to some extent NLG, just because of Ross King. But I'm with you in the analysis that I don't think map 14 was a good map for them. I just don't, like you said, like what a Legion and Namar do, because you don't really defend that map. You
No.
just pressure. That's your defense. The more pressure you have on their flag, the better your defense will do. And watching the game, they were applying pressure, but they were giving up just as many touches. And at what point do you just look back and you say, I don't know. And I also think on some level, when they were picking their map, they probably thought to themselves, well, are we going to do well against them in a frag heavy map? And maybe their thought was no. But obviously that's the map that they won. So, I mean, you can play ifs and buts, but it doesn't really matter. I think ultimately FU is the better team. And I think Nexus is right. If maybe they picked a map that favored them a little bit more, you could have seen a clean sweep. But even with the close and entertaining series that you had in the finals with them, I never watching it, like I never felt like FU was in any danger of losing. Like they lost round 2 and I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. But then they took round 3 and I'm like, okay, well, they could even lose round 4. They're going to come back and win round 5.
Yeah.
And they won round 4. So it was just like they didn't even give them a chance. So I don't know, like I think ultimately when you have a team that's just that stacked where you have 4 legitimate like every player on that team is a legitimate number 1 pick. Like when you go into an auction draft, every one of those guys in a season where there's a lot of diversity and there's a lot of parity in teams, every one of those guys is a number 1 pick.
Even the 4th, yeah.
Yeah, even the 4th.
It was nuts.
And they did it well. There's been teams like that in the past, and they never really kind of live up to those expectations and that hype, but they did. And they were very selfless. They practiced very well. I think you get that when you've got a lot of they're veteran laden. You know, Styles been around forever. Denzo has been around a long time too. Now Poto's a little bit younger, but Poto's really good. Despero's been around long enough. So they've got a lot of selfless guys. And I think on that level too, like, hey, we just want to win. What does that look like? And they made those decisions. And I want to give a shout out too to Despero, because Despero was nuts too, especially on map 14. Like Despero was pulling off all the crazy rocket jumps too. So great. I mean, great season, great series, but yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much more to add to that.
I think it kind of brings up like an interesting conversation about home fields, and then like I'd like to talk about what we think about the future of the league and where they're going to go. But like for me, whenever I was choosing a home field, I would never choose, like, unless we really thought that was a map that we were going to be good at. I would never choose a popular map. Basically, and I don't know, maybe a lot of people do this, but we'd go through the entire WOD and we'd be like, okay, like how do we feel as a team on any of these maps? It could be like a ridiculous map. Like I know people make fun of me because I like that scary, dark, fast map, but it was like, I kind of liked how my team played on a map like that. I liked the idea of playing that map. So I always favored going for a map that A, wasn't in the regular season, B, just, suited our strengths really well, and C, was pretty like underplayed or not very popular, because that meant like, it's kind of even playing field. Like if it's not popular to other people, that means I haven't played it very much. So it's really just about like which team is going to learn that map better. So I kind of liked doing that. I would pick like ZDCTF map 12 and like what's that other map 26, ZDCTF 26, like these maps that people would look at them and be like, you motherfucker, I can't believe you. So it's like, well, you can choose a home field too. You don't have to choose map 4 that we've all played a million times. Like, why would you choose a map where it's 50-50? Wouldn't you choose a map, well, where it's 50-50 in a way that's like more even? I would rather choose the 50-50 where it's like a toss-up, like a legitimate toss-up, not, you know what I'm trying to get at, where neither of you knows the map versus both of you know the map kind of situation. So I don't know if that would impact like choosing a popular map as a home field. Why do people do that? Is it just because they're familiar? Are they uncomfortable with choosing a map they don't know? Would things go differently if we had a block on certain maps that you could choose? Like, I feel like there's a lot of different ways that we could advance the leagues in general. to do things a little bit differently that might make the outcomes of games more interesting and a little bit less like to steal what people are saying about the NFL being scripted. Like, was it kind of scripted that FU would win? Kind
It
of.
was, yeah, definitely 100% rigged from the start.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the end of my thought. I don't know if you can pick out something in that long ass rant to talk about, but
I kind of liked
ahead,
what you
Nick.
said about blocking certain maps. Like you only have a certain pool of maps to choose from. Because now with our WAD has almost 100 maps, I think, in it, and
which first of all, that's too many maps, guys. Come on.
it's
many.
I think the original idea behind it is it's great for pub. You just get everything in there. Like you literally like could have 100 round match of pub, which would be ridiculous but kind of cool. For Prive, it's kind of interesting, but only like 20 maps get played, and then you always get that one guy who's gonna pick the worst map in the whole thing and just ruin Prive, and everyone leaves. But I think for home field picking, it makes it even worse because if we run this again and someone, I mean, hell, I'd even probably do it, just picks the most ridiculous map ever. Like, if you don't think you're gonna make it to finals, your team's gonna ass. You barely squeaked it into semifinals or whatever. Just pick like the most ridiculous home field ever, which everyone hates, and you might run a chance at winning it, but you'll also run a pretty solid chance of making it a terrible league to watch. But I think like confining the maps to like a certain amount would be good, and you can also make it good because then you can get maps which haven't been played, new maps, put that in the mix of things, force those to be played. Not everyone likes new maps, like we saw with week 1. My teammate Shane with map 68 wasn't really a fan, and we all heard that.
What? When did this happen?
It's not many people noticed, I don't think, but yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have a whole radio show on it, so
No, not at all.
So I would add to Nexus's point. I agree with you guys overall. I think 100 is just too many. I definitely think you can have more than 32. I think just having like a 50 map pack pool is all you need, and you can have your 4-game regular season scheduled with the maps, and then let the teams pick whatever they want out of a map of, I don't know, somewhere between 40 to 50 maps. That makes it interesting. That gives you good diversity. And touching on the point that kind of both of you talked about, when you pick maps and what your strategy is, and I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, it depends on what position you're in as a team. If you're one of the better teams, you're probably going to pick a safer map. There's no reason for you to pick something crazy that could allow somebody to get into like Scary Dark Fast. I would never pick that if I were a team that were better than everybody else. Behind you, I don't like the blur. I don't like you.
Damn, bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tough.
So, so going, wow. Okay. Whatever. What was I saying?
Scary Dark Fast, you would never choose.
Oh,
that
right.
map.
Yeah. So if I were a team if I'm FU, why would I ever pick that map? Why would I ever put myself in a position as a team that's clearly one of the better teams in the league and give one of the worst playoff teams, because I'm the top seed, so I'm facing the lowest seed. Why would I give them any legitimate chance in a map where a lot of things can go crazy and luck can be a big factor? And it might not even be luck. Like it could just be like I said, like the Dastin effect with Dastin and Tiger on the same team. I don't understand that reference.
I think he's talking
Nexus
about
he's running a shoe store.
Oh.
Yeah,
I see now. Gotcha.
If you need shoes, hit me up.
Yeah, no,
I got you.
I have like tons of shoes. Don't feel bad. There's no such thing as too many pairs.
Pretty maybe.
Well, but yeah. So I mean, that's what it kind of depends on. Like, okay, Bones. I think it just depends on like what position you're in as a team. Now, I've been in positions in the past. Now I haven't, mind you, most of my playing experience comes from the IDL day where, like, especially like in a Master Bowl, the map was picked for you. You didn't pick the map, but we picked maps that were like, okay, you know what I mean? Like why not? Like we're clearly not the best team in the league. But on any given day, if we made the game like really, really lame and we got a chance to play on our map, why not? But back in the day when we played, like you played the entire series on the higher ranked team's map. So you never got a chance to play your map unless you upset somebody in the first couple of rounds, and then you ended up being the highest seed in the next round. But
Do you
yeah,
know
I
who
mean,
you can thank for that change?
is that you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Because it is
Because
a
I
good
lost
change.
fucking like 4 Master Bowls, and I'm like,
Yeah,
come on,
Change
Yeah.
it up.
choose the map.
Yeah.
but that's what I mean. Like, there's strategy to that. Like, if I were a team that I felt like, man, like I said, like maybe we aren't so good. So what's like a really crazy map? Just throw a crazy map out there that nobody plays.
Anything
Not
by Aura.
Kansas.
Yeah. Okay, so that map.
Yeah, anything by
Never
Aura.
even seen it. I might be like, well, fuck it, nobody likes it, so let's try it because maybe we'll shock somebody. But I'm not gonna play FU on map like 9 or map. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna play them on like a well-established, well-known map because I already know what's gonna happen. But if
Yeah.
I can take them, out of their comfort zone, and get them into deep water, now we're talking. Like that's how upsets happen. So yeah, I don't know. Like I'm with you guys though. I think they should shrink the map pack. 100 is way too many. That's very Zakin-esque.
Ooh.
And I just feel like it's just what? Like it's the truth. There's way too many damn maps.
You're not
Like,
supposed
when
to
you
say
can't
that
even-
name
That's a
out loud.
bad. We get on a whole
When
radio
all the
about this one.
players, when all of the players that are active as hell don't even really know all the maps, that's a problem. Like I'm old and decrepit. It's fine that I don't know a lot of the new maps. But when the active players are like, yeah, there's like some maps in there I don't know. There's too many maps. There's too many.
Sort of like Pokemon. In my head, there's only 200. There's like
I'm
1,500
at
or something.
150. I never stopped at 151 was my limit.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on anymore. I don't map 68. That doesn't register as anything.
It's way too big of a number.
Yeah,
and it's
it's
going to
too many.
change. It'll change. The next WAD gets put together. Map 68 is now map 30 or whatever. And it's like, what? Please help me.
Yeah. I think
OJ, Zelda. Sorry.
yeah. I think on a positive note with the one, I think it's really cool to see all the maps together. And for like a pub perspective, I think it's pretty cool. But I think for like a competitive league, it should be like like 25 to 50 maps. That would be a good selection.
And rotate
And you'd
them.
have more than enough. Yeah, you could rotate them. You could have
Like
yeah.
rotate them annually. You don't have to keep the same maps. And that's a good thing. The great thing about the league is that it's full of people that have experience
Oh.
mapping. I have a good question. What do you do about
I
the
like this
stopping
question.
after the last flag is capped? So are you talking about what happened with
I'm assuming.
Nexus's team and
Yeah.
and TWT? So this is something that we talked about a lot and the channels and the various, I think all of us agree when that clock strikes 0, no flag should count. That should be it.
Yep.
But I understand where the administration is looking at this, where it's like, well, that's the port. How can we can't take away something from the port that exists. But there are ways that they can put scripts in that stop Doom Guy in his tracks at the 10-minute mark. They could add that into they could just do that. And you can take care of it now. And there's been some pushback about that. But like my line of thinking is if everybody thinks that, which I think most people believe in their heart of hearts, that it should just be at 10 minutes. That's it. No more movement. Everything stops. Whatever happened in those 10 minutes is a result of those 10 minutes. Why not just put that script in and make that your official play?
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
If
why? Because you're leaving it up to interpretation then.
Yeah.
If the game stopped, like if it hit 0 and for whatever reason, like the NFL, the clock hits 0 until the player or the ball goes down, you can still run around. In the NBA, if you have the ball in your hand and it hits 0, that's it. So if the game would still let you run around for whatever reason with a flag, like if you were holding a flag or something and it hits 0 and you can still move around, that's one thing. But the fact that the players stop and there's some weird thing in the engine where you just glide,
Yeah, it carries momentum.
then I'm sorry, but it hit 0. That's it.
Or get
Yeah.
rid of the flag. That's another thing too.
Yeah, I think that'd be a better way of doing it. Just get rid of the flag. I think the first order of business though is just ban Tiger. Like fuck him.
Yeah.
Maybe Warrior too. Just add just all the TWT to be honest. Bannable offense for scoring afterwards. Ridiculous. But yeah, like just seeing a game, seeing the score change after the game's over is a pain in the ass. Made us play differently round 3. It's just not fun. But I think like there was bound to be something that goes wrong in a season, right? Especially when it's the first time running a season. I think in a perfect world we would have had this rule set out to begin with, but who could ever foresee someone capping after the game's over? Like that's just ridiculous.
It's never.
But I think just going forward, like we
Yeah.
should have something set out where it's like
Something
100%.
close happened one
Yeah.
time.
But nothing as blatant as that. Like look, like that was like there was a clear like 2 or 3 seconds.
Did you play an
after the
IDL
time.
season 1 by any chance? I can't remember the first season.
Was that
of
what
IDL?
before Z Damon made the change?
Yeah, so we had a playoff game. It was me, Zanero, and Doom Guy 666, right? So we were playing like Denny and a couple other people, and we were playing fucking map 11 for whatever ZDCTF map 11 when people still played that, and it was a playoff game. It was like 0. I swear to God, they scored with 0 seconds on the clock, and we were about to tie and go into another round, and then the whole match ended. Like we lost on that cap. Maybe they scored with 1 second left, and by the time intermission hit, it was 0. I don't know, but it's like it's just hard. I get where they're coming from. It's really difficult to tell, but in this one, it was blatantly like 0-0, and then
Yeah,
like,
there was no precedent on this. There really wasn't. Like that's why it wasn't in any IDL, WDL, Z. What was Zakin's league? I don't remember. Z.
I couldn't tell you. I never heard of it.
But any of those other, like, it's not in any of their rule books. Like when you make a lot of rules as a league, like you're going based on precedent of other leagues, based on your experience. I can promise you that was in nobody's rule book because it's nothing like that on that level has ever happened before. Yeah. Because it was really only possible to that degree on Zandronum because Z-Damon and Odomex more or less have hard stops at the time. Like there's a little bit of time, but like it's a hard stop. Whereas Zandronum is just like, oh, everybody kind of glides and it's like, oh shit, like this actually happened. So now as administration, it's okay. Like I think they made the correct call. Don't change the score. It happened. You can't take points off the board. Even if it's not legit. Like I get it. And nobody's going to be happy with that decision. But what you need to do then going forward is say, okay, how do we change this? Because even though it really didn't matter in terms of functional output, it made ORB play differently. And so ORB still had a chance to come and win the next round, win the series. They didn't. But you could still make that argument that because that score counted and there was uncertainty, it changed their mentality. And you just don't want to come out of a game having that question. So nip it in the bud. Just say, like, we're going to put this stance in. And even if you don't put the flag in, like, let's say you don't even put those scripts in, even if you came out as an administration and said, look, I don't care. When that clock strikes 0 and if somebody scores, we're removing it. We don't care what the engine says. But I think their stance going forward is, look, that's the engine, so it's going to continue to count. I think that's a mistake. I think there's ways around that. But I mean, I think that's really like the only big question going in.
The hard part is
season.
being able to make those decisions like in a split second. And I think even like
but you can't.
I know. I mean, sometimes you can, but it's hard, right? Like you could run however many seasons I've run at Ralph or whatever, and you could have something new happen, and like you kind of have to decide really fast, like what are you going to do? Like, and it's not easy. So sometimes you just like there was a playoff game a couple years ago where I think the server was DDoSed or something, and we played the whole game. We got to the end, and it was like they were talking about, oh, should the game go through? The whole time the team's playing, and it's like obviously the decision to replay the game makes sense, but when you have a team that goes through practicing and then like playing the game and you think, oh wow, we're winning, like when we win the game, and then they decide to redo it, it's like There's no easy answer, I guess.
No, it's not fair to anybody.
Right. So
it's not fair to anybody.
They do the best that they can in the moment,
Well, that's what I mean. Like, you're not going to have like commissioners standing by for every match that happens. And this league doesn't have a single solitary commissioner that makes that decision. They have a group of administrative people that do. They're not all going to be sitting in a conference room every time every game happens to say, oh shit, like this is unprecedented. Let's have an answer in 3 seconds. Like, that's unrealistic. That's why I said, like, you can't go back and change the score because it happened. But what you need to do is you need to go forward and say, like, we need to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yep.
And I feel like they kind of took a week out when they went with, well, it's in the port, so we're not gonna change anything. It's like, well, you could, like, you have options. Even if you're saying like we won't add any script or anything into it, but we just won't count any score. Because again, like, in reality, there's no functional, like, nothing functional happens with the actual scores. Like, if I beat you 5-1, that doesn't make it official because it says that in the server. It's people are going to look at the game and say, okay, well, it was 5-1. So if I happen to get a second cap and make it 5, or they get a second cap and make it 5-2 after the clock, like, that second cap isn't going to stand. You know what I mean? Like, it's not based on that. So just, I don't know. I just think I think it's a mistake, but I think they have options. So that's kind of where I stand with that.
I'm sure they'll look at it. And so just throw this up real fast. Actually, this is very important for us to put out that poll, take with the community.
Oh, the community's fucking stupid. Don't give them the option.
That's what I was about to say. Jesus Christ.
Like, don't give them the option. That's the reason why you are the administration. Like, most of the people in this community,
listen,
like,
they're
don't
still
even go
learning.
outside.
They're still learning.
Like,
we know that because we've run a lot of things. But as soon as they've run a couple of things, they're like, man, these people are dumb.
Yeah,
no, Wiz knows nothing. Like, it's bad.
No, I respect Wiz and I respect where he's coming from, but that's why you have it'd be different if you had like maybe one administrator that made the decision for everything. Because then taking a community vote is saying, I'm not going to be the all powerful here. Like, I'm going to give everybody a chance to have input on this. But you have an entire staff. Like, that's the reason why you have a staff. You make those difficult decisions. The community is fucking stupid. And on top of that, you don't even know if you have no way of knowing if everybody saw the poll, voted. You can't know that. So trust your staff and just make a decision. Like, that's what I would do.
Give a suggestion to something that Ralph does in the WDL is he polls all the captains. So at least you've got like a smaller group of people. You want to get more opinions, then okay, you should poll the people that you've trusted to run the teams, right? So just poll the captains. And then that way you're not getting like somebody under an alt in a Discord going, I think this. Boom.
The community has plenty of intelligent people that have experience in making these decisions, and they're involved. They have the people that can make those decisions. I would not go based on a poll. Maybe the only thing I might let the community vote on is the shades of colors for each team. That's about as far as I'm willing to let them have any input on anything.
And how, some of those colors are.
Sorry, I don't mean like I don't like a dick, but like every successful competitive league in the world doesn't go like the actual rules that the game is decided on does not go on community vote. Like there's professionals and administration in those positions that make those decisions. You don't give people a chance. You know what I'm saying? Because they're stupid. They don't. You have to protect the people from themselves. They don't know any better. Sorry.
Yep.
This got real negative.
It's a solid way of putting it.
It's all good.
I think. Yeah.
So, obviously, this wraps up season 1. But do you think there will be a season 2? What kind of stuff would you like to see from a second season? Obviously, we talked about 6 teams. They could have gone to 8. I agree. I think it was a good decision to stick with 6. Because we've seen seasons where, like we've gone like, we have the numbers to do 8, but it's like you really shouldn't have. So they made a good decision. And So yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? Because I think I liked the way it was run. I enjoyed the new rule where there were no ties.
Yeah, it was an awesome rule.
I like that. Mixes things up. So I don't know. I just felt like the community overall, besides that, week one mishap where some of us didn't like the map. It was a pretty like. Oh, and that whole saying something on a stream thing. I thought it was like the energy was fun. It wasn't like heavy. It was kind of light. So I don't know. What do
I
you
want to hear
guys
from Nexus because he played in the league. I'm curious
Yeah.
what your thoughts are.
Yeah, and I'm technically administrator. I don't really do much except for help pay for the servers, to be honest. But moving forward, I think it was a great season for a starter. Like you said, 6 teams. I think it played well. I think if we went for 8 in this situation, we would have had, like I think 8 said earlier, like 3 teams which would have been like just dog shit, and it wouldn't even like you just decided from day one from the draft where it's like not even worth watching except until you get up to like the finals. So with this amount of people who signed up, I think 6 was the right decision. We had some like gross teams. Every single team, I feel like in a normal league in the past, like has a really good chance of winning it all. And in this week, we saw, in my opinion, 2 which really stood out, being VBM and FU, which were like really, really strong teams, which were just a little bit more well-rounded than everyone. But I think all the teams were really, really good. Moving forward, I think there's definitely going to be more seasons. Like as of right now, don't know what ZCA is doing, but as of right now, we kind of control most of what happens competitively on Zandronum. In the near future, in the next months to come, we got a dual tournament coming up. It's in the planning stages. There's no dates or anything like that yet, but it's coming. And then also TDM. So sign up for those, or else I'm coming for you personally. But yeah,
I'm glad Wiz and I have talked about the dual tournament, and I think that's a really good idea because nobody has really capitalized on pushing that.
Yeah.
Back in the MDF days, I ran dual tournaments pretty frequently, but I mean, that's not the same thing as like an actual potential league. And I don't know if that's
Right.
something that is in
So
the Rampage's like future if they want to make a dueling league. I think the problem is the game mode isn't as popular as it used to be. But yet the maps are like better than ever for dueling.
Oh yeah, no.
That's what we found when we were talking about doing a dual league, because we've had those conversations over the years, and then we figured like, okay, how do we revitalize a game mode that nobody really cares about? And that was to do Take the Crown and give away a bunch of money and like make it an event. So I think it would be really great to bring back a dual league, because twice a year I cannot give out $1,500 to people. So I think that would be really great. And especially like I like seeing all these events pop up. Like, not that we've seen like TDM and all these other things happen, but I feel like up until, well, I'm not going to give myself credit. I feel like for a long time there was just a focus on CTF. So seeing all these other game modes is really exciting and cool. So it's exciting. Yeah, it's just exciting.
I'd play a dual league. Like I would I would come out of retirement to play. Like I would take that shit 1000% seriously and grind again.
Yeah. See, for me, I like with the last serious dual tournament that happened, and it was one on Otomex, which I was fortunate enough to play in, but the signups weren't that great. And then before that was Take the Crown, like Bones said, and I hadn't even started playing the game yet. Like, so I never got the opportunity to play in a big proper dual league yet, or tournament, I guess I should say. I think for a league, you need a lot of people who are willing to sign up consistently. And as of right now, with dual kind of being like, let's be honest, it's like 10 guys, myself included, who kind of play each other every now and then. I think we need to build up the player base more. So starting off with just a tournament and then seeing what the interest is from there. And then, in the perfect world, in my eyes, I'd love to see another dual league pop up and have it properly played like CTF. But I think a tournament's a good place to start.
I think what's interesting with duel is like, and I'm going to use like wrestling as an analogy here, because wrestling is like one of the only things, and it's all like scripted, right? So let me be clear with that. I'm not using this as like a competitive argument, but just kind of what it means for people with regard to it being a spectacle. with dual tournaments, the cool thing that you could have is you could have like some dream matchups. Like, what if like it's not going to happen, but like, what if Ocelot came out of retirement and faced Nexus? Like, how fucking cool would that be to see somebody that was
Depends who you
dominant in
ask.
the 2000s
Yeah.
versus somebody who's dominant in the 2020s? Like, that's the selling point that you have for dueling that you really don't even have for CTF, because it's really hard to advertise one person when it's a team oriented game. But when it's based on one player versus another player, you get to sit there and say like, whoa, like there's these potentially really cool matchups, because all you have to, it's easier for people to come out of retirement and play duel. You don't have to operate on other people's schedules. It's all up to you if you're willing to do that. Like, I don't think you'll ever get Jacobs to play Zandronum, but like if you put it out there, you could probably get Jacobs to come out and play.
Yep. You could also play different leagues over, or different tournaments over different ports. Like
Yeah.
not many people have noticed, but there is actually a Rampage dual server on ZDaemon. Now I think ZDaemon's an absolute joke in terms of how it plays, but like it is there. So if the interest is there, you could always there could always be a tournament there.
First tournament I ran was on ZDaemon. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, that's seriously like, I'm with you. Like, unfortunately, the port's just not as good as it used to be. Or
Yeah.
I guess the better thing to say is it didn't keep up with the other ports.
No,
But
I think at least on my end, like I know that the MDF had been pretty dormant for a while, and then moving over.
I like ZDaemon's mouse. I just don't think the netcode is good. Like, I think
mouse,
that's the biggest
dude,
issue.
it's mouse lag and everything.
I
Like
mean, I'm
on a
used to
mouse.
that,
What is
though.
there to like?
Well, I'm used to it though. Like that.
Oh yes, maybe.
But that's what I mean. Like, I think it's like it has like it's good quality. It just, I don't know. It's just not as good. It didn't keep up to date. That's its problem. I still like it. I'll always love ZDaemon, but I realize that like most people are like, yeah, no, like it's Zandronum or.
I love I like the people who play. Like I love to see that people are committed to a port. Like ZDaemon does have a handful of individuals who play each other constantly on there, but like if you're used to playing Zandronum and you go over to ZDaemon and back and forth, like it's a pain.
Yeah.
Well, I like seeing other activity, because it felt like for a while there wasn't a lot of that, and like I was saying, where MDF went dormant for a bit and then we became Doom Central and we haven't really done much. I think within the next month or two we'll start to see some more stuff. And actually this weekend I'm going to announce something with XWiz, so it'll be a quick thing that I don't know, we'll see if people play in it, but it's cool to have other communities like running things with each other. Because
so I'm gonna put this out there because I thought this is a cool idea, and XWiz is gonna steal credit from me for this idea, and I'm gonna make sure that I put it live on stream so that he can't take credit for this idea. Love you, John. I think one of the cool things that you could do to really get things going is just have, and this used to happen somewhat back in the day on Otimex and Zandronum servers with like Elo systems and stuff, where you'd have like just small like 10 to 15 matches, and that the person that wins keeps that spot until somebody knocks them out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
that's not
and that's just a little weekend event. They're short matches, so they're not long commitments for anybody. Because anybody that's ever dueled like real serious and like 50 frag rounds, especially on like maps like D5M1,
0 time limit.
It'll fucking be like a 30 to 40 minute match, and nobody wants to sit there forever. But if you have like quick matches like that and like higher pace maps, dude, like you get in and out, and like you build up interest that way. It's easy for people. It's like low brain activity. So I don't know. That's just something to think of. So now John can't steal that idea. I can't say it was his. It was mine.
It's like the 10 frag duels that we used to do in Skulltag,
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm basing it on. Like that used to be a thing. And I still think they do it. Like that's what like Genova will come in and be like, yo, come and 10 frag me, bro. And then just talk like massive shit for like an hour straight.
Sounds like Genova.
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think there's exciting stuff happening, and it's cool to see you're going to have a dual league, dual TDM, some other stuff. So exciting stuff to look forward to. Is there anything else that we should cover before we call it a season?
Shout out to Nexus for coming on here.
Yeah.
I appreciate you kind of last second, especially coming and speaking from the staff perspective, talking about duels, being a dual player yourself. And like you represent a lot of new players. I wish there were more of you.
Yeah.
But I think you guys are doing the right things to create, like, whether we'll get new players in the community or not, who knows? But like, I think you guys are doing like the absolute like best things that you could be doing to make it a friendly community for new players. And keep it up. Like, you guys are doing great.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. I think overall, just a good season. Not a whole lot to say. I see OJ's saying in the comments. He's asking me why I benched Shane for Seneca.
Shane can't
Main
play
reason.
basketball.
Main reason. Shane's in the UK, so time zone wise,
I did just take a nap.
I got ACC on my team. Who's West Coast. I'm West Coast. Seneca, he's just on super late. I think he's like Central Mexico. Probably gonna hate me for saying that. I'm probably wrong, but he's he's always around the same time. When we play, it's usually like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. for Shane, so we couldn't practice him at all. And also,
Rob's just mad
Seneca's
that I
my
still
dog.
have hair to like have bedhead.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. I just meant to hide that, but yeah.
No, highlight it. Highlight it. Put him on the spot.
I'm excited for Doom Central, and I'm glad that a lot of these different administrative staffs are working together for the Doom community, because that's what the community needs. And
yeah, I think it's all. Yeah, I think the attitudes and the personalities that have been around for so long, like you try really hard to work with other people, and there's somebody remembers something from like 2002 that you did or something, and then it's like, oh, you can't work with these people. So I just feel like that, like, we're just going to kill the game at that point. So it is nice to have like contact with other people, and everyone has like the same goal. Like, yeah, okay, we're all going to sit around and like I get it, this is a 30-year-old video game and we're still talking about it, but like, since we like it so much, why shouldn't we like do things to keep it going instead of kill it? So it's nice.
100%.
I agree.
One
good
thing.
job. Go team.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Go team.
I don't have anything.
Okay.
I've said enough bullshit for the night.
Yeah. No. One thing I forgot to say about the finals is also like Poto was disgusting. Congratulations to Sparrow for actually winning something. I don't think he's ever done that before.
You only needed 3 of the best players in the world to do it.
Exactly.
Literally needed the most stacked team of all time.
A fair team. Love to see it. Theron, good job for losing again.
OJ is also one of the greatest players of all time, so let me just say that.
Yeah, big props to Ludwig, season MVP for me personally.
Ooh.
Yeah, good season.
Him and Langridis are just going around calling people N-words together.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to do radio. Yeah, I feel it's nice. Like, this is the first time I've done it and not played, and like just came in, and gotta be honest with you, sometimes I didn't watch the games. So maybe you knew that, but it's been fun to be like, okay, let me try and figure this out, kind of thing. So it was cool, and I think Shane was really. I got to thank Shane for giving like at least 45 minutes worth of content this season for us to talk about. I mean, he's my MVP.
Shane, you the real MVP.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hate who's your MVP for the season?
Like, are we memeing or are we being serious?
I'm being dead serious with Ludwig.
Okay.
What's serious?
Langrenus' vocabulary.
That's a good one.
The rule book. Come on. I had, I'm sure Ralph remembers this, the 3-way trade that I did when No Star convinced me that the writing in the rule book didn't, like, I could make 2 trades at one time, and it only counted as one, but it was really 3. Yeah. So
everybody knows No Star spelled backwards is do whatever you want.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Nexus, and hey, I guess we'll have to find another league to do a radio for. I don't know. You might find us. There's a Minecraft
at ZCA.
League.
Hey, is ZCA hiring? We're desperate.
What are we gonna? Can you comment on 2 teams? Okay, that's it. I'm gonna go.
Jesus.
Welcome back,
Good.
Zach.
No,
Good end.
absolutely not.
100%.
That's not a good end. We are not ending on that note.
Okay.
Just say anything. Butterfly. Like I don't say
no.
anything.
Solid ending note. Sign up for whatever mysterious thing DC is planning, and sign up for Duel and TDM.
Do I have mysterious
That.
music I can play?
Play that Doctor Who theme.
Mysterious.
Sounds like a Fruity Loops beat.
Sound like Kahoot. This. Oh yeah.
Are these StreamYard songs?
Yeah, they're built into this. So they just throw them on here, and you can literally click loop. So I could just get up and walk away and play this shit.
That's
You can add your own too. I really need to go home, so it's been great, but I need to leave now.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I'll see you guys next season.
Adios.